Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jason Park with the Hypatude podcast. I am here with Adam Newman, who is a writer, director, producer. He's done 4 features, 2 shorts, and is constantly just active in the field. What's up, my man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, let's just get right into it because I know you're on a press run right now for Round the Decay. Talk to me and talk to the audience about it. Why should they see it? What is the story about? What inspired you? A triple question.
Sure. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot in one. The movie's called Round the Decay. It's a horror movie, creature feature, whatever you want to say. It is a film that is about this young woman who goes back to this kind of sleepy tourist town years after a tragedy happened between her and her fiance. And when she's there, she ends up meeting this eclectic cast of characters, and then they kind of unleash this ancient secret evil on the town, and then it's how they react to that. And so, what inspired it, years ago, we had just finished, probably about a year and a half ago, we had just finished our other feature called Everwinter Night, which was just kind of a chaotic shoot. It was something where we got shut down by SAG right before we were starting. And so we lost a lot of our actors and had to completely tell a new story. So we were writing the movie as we were going, and it's not the way that you want to make a movie. And
Sure.
so when I had finished that, I was like, I really want to make sure that I get to write something and really write something and really beat the script up and tell a story that's really, really personal and something that I have a little more time to have marinate. And so I ended up writing this while I was visiting my mother in Wales, and I had 3 weeks off. And so by 3 weeks off, it means 3 weeks to write.
Right.
And so I was able to, I note carded this whole story out. And at the time I was going through a really rough breakup and kind of processing that. And so that kind of was the seeds of at least the core themes of Round the Decay. And also, I mean, it had been an older script that I had been playing around with. It was originally supposed to be a cosmic horror, but over the course of time, it's just kind of shifted and changed. And cosmic horror is a little bit too expensive and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of how it is. If you like movies that are fun, Friday night movies, popcorn movies, I think it has everything you want. It's got scares, it's got good kills, it's got great characters. And then also, if you want to go there and you want to have an emotional experience, I think you're going to get that as well from this movie, because it's talking a lot about relationships and forgiveness and things like that, loneliness. It's tackling a lot of different things. So it can work on both levels. It can work on either level. So yeah, we're hoping people go and check it out when it hits the cinemas that we're in across the country starting January 30th.
And I'm going to ask all about that too. Do you feel like your breakup that you were going through at the time and then the timing off really helped influence the way you wrote the story?
Oh yeah, certainly. The breakup had been it had been about 6 months, and I was already seeing somebody new, but I was kind of processing the stuff that I went through and probably the stuff that I put her through.
Sure.
And so I was thinking a lot about that, in the bed, I want to tell a fun monster movie, that is one of the biggest goals. But at the same time, what I love about genre is that it's really a great playground when it comes to talking about bigger themes, and what's so great about a monster, like confronting a monster can work metaphorically, but it also can work in a way in which a character has to tackle something from their past now at this
Sure.
moment. And so, yeah, it was, I think all writing is therapy and all movie making is therapy. If I could talk about the stuff I want to talk about, I wouldn't make movies. I would probably just talk about them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was therapeutic. And I think that, it helped me get through it. And I think you can see some of it in there, but at the same time, I don't think you're going to sit around and be like, oh my God, will this guy shut up, stop whining about things. I think you're going to watch the movie and be really wrapped into the story.
Right, right. It's fascinating because the reason why I asked that question outside of just, listening is for the longest time as a fellow filmmaker, I wasn't into the human connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think around film number 4 or 5 or something like that, something was like, well, we are human. So the only way you get people, because in my mind, I've always thought bigger, I want them to go to space and aliens and all this stuff. But when you're an independent filmmaker, everything you create is grounded because your resources are very grounded. So what made you, from all of your previous projects, because you've been a busy man, I think it's since 2018?
That's just what's on IMDb. I've been doing this since 2007.
So since 2007, very similar timeline with myself since 2006. But let's say based on IMDb as far as the features and the shorts, right?
Sure.
You've been a busy man to have 4 features, 2 shorts, and countless other scripts you probably have already wrote or other projects you worked on. Like, how do you manage to work at that scale? Because most people in that same time frame maybe do 1 film and are working on their second.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not very good at sitting still. I think that's a big part of it. Once I finish a movie, I'm very good at pre-production, and I'm mostly good at production, and I'm terrible at post-production. I'm one of the worst at post-production. I'm very lucky that I don't have to edit my movies anymore. But the moment I get into post, most of the time, I have my editor working on it, and my brain's working on something new. I want to tell a new story. I'm not running out of stories. I have too many of them, if anything. And so, and I think after I get out of a movie, I always want to do something completely different. If you look at the filmography, Everwinter Night and, Round the Decay have some similarities in that they're both considered horror movies, but Round the Decay is very different. It's more of a horror film than Everwinter is. Everwinter is really a relationship movie. And then you go back and you see Carolina Shag, which is a short film we did. That's a short that takes place in a space bar and is a romantic movie that also has a Jackie Chan fight scene in it. And then you go look at Nomad, which is like a really slow burn, tense, in one location short that's also kind of post-apocalyptic. And then, you go look at Ice Patrol, and that's supposed to be like my, me doing a Jeff Nichols movie. And the thing is, I just can't sit still, and I want to talk about so many different things in so many different genres because I love all genres of movies. And so I think that's a big part of it. Also, I despise people telling me what I can and can't make. I think that's the biggest thing. And so many people in filmmaking are kind of like waiting around for either somebody to give them money or for the right time or anything like that. I'm very bad at a lot of things, but I'm not bad at getting the ball rolling. So once I have a script, basically good. By that I mean something that is readable. Doesn't mean it's ready. I'm pretty good at starting to get the troops in line. Also, I just think I would die if I don't do it. I want to be making a movie every year. I wish I could make 2 every year. But like I said, I'm not short on stories, and I can't stop. Anytime I've tried to take a break, it becomes alarming, and I get depressed and I get anxious. And
you feel like you have to do something, right?
Yeah, and when like the moment we finished shooting Round the Decay, I started panicking because I didn't have another script that was ready to go at this exact moment. And so I constantly am trying to write and work on other stories so that I can just be going. The goal is that I just do this over and over and over and over. And then one day maybe I'll die, and then that's it. And hopefully all of the work will have been done then, and I can feel decent about it. But I want to die in the middle of development of a script. You know what I mean? I don't want to ever stop doing this. So yeah, I like that that's cool that I have 6 there. And then I start thinking back, I go, wow, I've made a lot more movies than that.
Yeah. Like it's one of those things where there's actually 2 points I want to touch on, but it's one of those things where people don't realize how I see these memes and these posts, and it's like, man, where you are today is where like you would wish you were where you are today 6 years ago. Right.
That's so good. That's such a good, because I feel that same way. And it's crazy because, we are here and we're about to play Round the Decay in theaters, which is really cool. And we're in over 60 screens right now. We're hoping to get more. That's like what my days are. That's
one of the things that really intrigued me when we first connected, having that theatrical launch. And it's a little selfish of me because on the film that I'm working on now, I was talking to my wife and I said, for this one, I really want to go for a theatrical push, right? Just because of the style of film that it is. How did you go about getting the theaters? How did you go about getting the sales agent, the distributor? Like, what was the process, and you don't have to give me an exact, but what was the cost associated with it? So any other indie filmmaker out there that's like, hey, I want to put this in theaters, that they have an idea of what they need a budget or save for to get that done.
That's an awesome question, truly. Well, so first of all, in terms of the distributor and sales agent, we have none in regards to our theatrical release. We made a decision to do it on our own. We've talked to sales agents in the past and distributors and things like that. Most of the time, these days. What they're really just looking for is that streaming. They want the streaming rights. Talking with sales agents and distributors now, which we have not made a decision yet in regards to our streaming or physical media. But when we have conversations with them, our conversations are saying we are taking care of our theatrical, and that is that. And most of them say, "Cool, sounds good." So they don't want to make a push either, because it's very difficult to get your movie into theaters.
And I know we discussed about how you cold called and just reached out and everything. So it was like, I guess you're not going to an AMC, and was this like a planned attack? Like, all right, I called this 1,000, 70 said yes. Now for the 70, hey guys, January 31st is when it's releasing. Was that the process kind of?
It's sort of like that. I mean, we went to AMC, of course. You go to all the big ones and you try. I mean, most of those, you get a lot of silence. It's not even no's. I would prefer no's. You get a lot of silence. People aren't really interested in listening. Luckily we have a small team that is able to make lots of calls and emails and things like that. While we have somebody working on post, I'm constantly doing notes on post and things like that. But I can then take some time and call theaters and stuff like that. We don't really get to say a lot about when we play. We came in with the idea of going on the 31st, and we had that plan for probably 6 weeks or 8 weeks now. And then what ends up happening is, you see that most theaters don't want to start planning their schedule until about 2 to 4 weeks out. They play it really tight. I always
sounds counterintuitive.
yeah, exactly. I always kind of thought it would be you have your kind of schedule laid out for the year, and you make slight adjustments according to that. Not even close to the case. So oftentimes we'd reach out and they'd be like, "We're not ready for you." And then when we would reach out, we started hearing some things like, like The Brutalist and movies like that are big Oscar contenders are kind of dropping on the 31st of January as well. And so that has hurt us in some ways. And oftentimes we are saying, was there anything we could have done differently? And they're like, nope, you just kind of have to flow with it, which is what we're kind of getting used to. So January 31st is, our big release, our first release, but some theaters are going to be showing it February 7th and then February 14th. It all is kind of based around them. And we want to be open for them. But we do call AMC and Regal and all of these different places. Some of them, listen to us. Some of them don't. And understandably, AMC is one of those places that says like, yeah, we can bring you in, but you need to spend $10,000 on marketing per screen or something to that effect. That is not something that we have. And right. So a lot of what we've been pushing is what we can do with our social media team, what we've been doing with Atom Tickets, which we made a deal with Atom Tickets in order to help us. And what we're doing, obviously, on a personal Dreamscape Productions level. And hopefully that helps get us into those cinemas. Some of them take risks. Sure. They want to take a chance on us because Terrifier 3 did really well, and movies like that are doing really well. So they go, yeah, you know what? I have a screen for something like this. And if this really catches on, we're easy to deal with, and we can work with them on more projects and things like that.
Well, horror is a genre, luckily you don't need name talent.
Yeah, we're lucky that we have a couple people that are drawing some interest. Rachel Pizzolatto, who plays the monster, she's a big Instagram person, so sure. She has a lot of followers there. We have Roger Clark. If you're a video game player, he's Red Dead Redemption. Are these A-list actors? No, they're incredibly talented actors, but they're not necessarily A-list. That helps. Sure. And then, like you just said, horror sells. It really does. It's the one genre that is kind of actor-proof. People just want scares, or they want a good story, and they will go to the theater and they will pay for that. And like I just said,
to get that jump scare.
Yeah, nothing will stop teenagers from going on dates on weekends.
100%.
So yeah, it's been a crazy ride. I really want to say we don't spend a ton of money when it comes to the marketing and things like that. We have a little bit saved up,
sure,
off to the side, but we do not spend a whole lot. It has not cost us a lot. The only thing it really has cost us is time. It's calling and emailing and calling and trying to get things set up, and also being able to be flexible in regards to their schedule and also what they need from us. We just give them more marketing material than they would necessarily have and stuff like that. So it is doable if you want to. Also, you have to take into your movie. I don't want to be rude or anything like that. Your movie has to look like a movie.
Sure.
With quotes. You have to have the production value, which is where our dollar goes. I think our movie looks more expensive than it is.
Yeah. It looks great. The trailer looks absolutely great.
Thank you.
I'm gonna throw myself off course here. What did you guys shoot on?
The camera,
Yeah.
Sony Burano.
Okay.
It was the first time that he had used it, and people are asking for lenses. There are a bunch of zines, and then they custom made a couple lenses that were.
So you had a nice setup. That Verano ain't cheap. That's a modern day Toyota Corolla.
Yeah, no, it's a very no, it's a good camera. Yeah, no, we spent. Yeah, I can't go into
an estimate. Don't give me an exact, because I know you're still trying to sell the film and stuff.
Yeah, and obviously there's the stigma that comes with low budget films. Our movie costs over $100,000 and it costs less than $300.
Sure.
So like it's somewhere in that range. We like when it comes to the camera, that camera is owned by our director of photography. It was the first time using that camera. He has an Alexa, but he wanted to use the Burano because the Burano is a lot more mobile. And we were, as you've seen in the trailer, we're in a cave. And so it's a lot easier to lug around a 25-pound camera rather than a 50-pound camera.
Sure.
And so, the movie looks great. And I mean, a big part of that is lighting and whatnot as well, and composition and all those things that you kind of learn as you're making these movies. The trailer had to sell people, and then also the screener has to work, and so we're getting good positive feedback from the screener, and that it looks and feels like a movie. It looks like something that people would be interested in. Even the people that have rejected us, saying, hey, we don't have the space, they've said, like, this movie is a lot of fun and we really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, we just don't have space at the theater. So you have to have those elements for sure. Your movie's got to be good, and you have to have like a killer trailer that could really work. And then once you have those, I think that you can, if you have the ability to do the legwork, to start making conversations with these theaters, you really have a chance, and find everything you can sell it on. We're just talking with somebody in Atlanta, over in Georgia, and they're probably going to be showing our film. And a big reason is because the makeup team is from Georgia.
Yeah.
And so they may show up and they may do a meet and greet, and Rachel, our Instagram model there, she's down in Louisiana. She may show up for a meet and greet. And hey, we have some cast members who are from LA.
Those meet and greets really help, huh? Yeah,
the meet and greets, all of the Q&As, anything that's like that. Anytime you can sell anybody on that, I grew up in New Hampshire and in Massachusetts. And so I push that. I say, hey, listen, I live in New Hampshire right now. I am going to be bringing people. We're pushing them to the theaters. So just letting you know, we've got 50 people ready to buy tickets.
Yeah.
And people go, you know what? We can give this movie a week if it's going to be something like that. So
you're inspiring me, by the way. You're inspiring me to push myself to go ahead and get this film in theaters, because there's a double whammy that happens. Like, a private screening at a theater is one thing, right? It's like, okay, you guys watch it. Okay, cool. Right.
Yeah.
But to actually get it in theaters, doesn't Hollywood have to report on it as well? Like, however they report on it in their system, if it goes to theater?
To a degree, yes. They're going to want their data. There's ComScore, which is kind of like an accumulation of all of this type of stuff, which of course we will end up reporting to. You're right. They are separate things. We still do our premiere. We did our premiere back in October, the private screenings, like you say, which is still cool to see it on a big screen with a bunch of people. Yeah, no, there's a whole lot that goes into this. We learned about the MPA rating system. We got our movie rated. You guys have to pay
for that?
Yes, of course.
What was the cost for that? Like $2,500 or something crazy?
It's based off of your budget. So the budget of your movie, I'll just be honest with you, it's $3,000 for to get your movie rated. Yeah, these are the things that you do have to think about, though, when you're starting to budget the movie. Our budget was something that we had done, and then we came back and this adjustment, and then you start thinking about post-production and what the MPA rating costs.
Do you have to have that for a theater release?
Of course not. No, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, look at what Terrifier 3 went in as and not rated.
So what's the benefit of actually getting that MPA rating?
I think what it does, one is that it tells people what's in the movie, right? So, it's the R rating, but it also tells you why it's rated R, which is like blood, gore, violence, language, sex, nudity. That's what we have in ours. And so people look at that and some people who are like, I like R-rated movies, but I don't want to see any nudity. Well, you don't need to watch it now. And then the other thing that it really does is, and I think this is a big part of it, is makes you feel like a real movie. I think any little aspect that you can do to make your movie feel realer to an audience, having a good trailer, having the movie look good, having it rated. We also use like the hangar, which is basically where you keep all of your digital assets for movie theaters.
Sure.
And it's incredibly easy to use. I suggest everybody use it. It does cost money for a movie, but every movie theater in the country uses the hangar. And so,
So
when they say, hey,
you upload to the hangar, and then the movie theaters go to the hangar and pull your movie information there.
exactly,
So do you have to
absolutely.
create a DCP when you upload it to, or they can just do it from there?
So it's two separate things. So the hanger is basically, if you upload your trailer, it's not going to be the DCP version. You can, but most of the time what it is you're giving them a version which they can pull for their social media. They could show on the like little TV screens that are above, where they eat popcorn and stuff like that. That's really all that they're drawing from. The DCP is a separate thing. We go through a place called Deluxe in order to do that, which takes care of our movie and our trailer. But when you are doing your big push to be in theaters, you have to recognize that every single time you send that DCP, both the trailer and the movie, it's going to cost you something, and it's all based off of how that thing is being delivered. If it's a physical drive versus a satellite versus an e-delivery,
Yeah.
these are all different things with all different costs, and so they can end up sinking you to a degree if you're not prepared for that type of payment. But it is so much easier to use something like that
Yeah.
for Deluxe to just be like, hey, send that DCP over to this exact location, and they just send you a receipt and everything is taken care of, rather than us having to create a whole bunch of thumb drives and then ship out all of these DCPs everywhere. So
Sure.
it saves us a bit of time. It probably saves us, honestly, a bit of money, especially when you include our time. But having all of these things in order makes it a lot easier when you're selling yourself to a theater. We're still fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah.
We're still little. We're small potatoes. We have 3 people that work at our company.
Yeah.
So it's not like we can, if they say we need you to spend $10,000 in marketing, it's like we don't have that. But what we have is everything that you need right now. And we're going to push really hard because we're really, really invested in getting this movie in front of more people, obviously, and obviously making money, because one day we'd like to make our budget back for this thing. So I think that does help, especially for these indie theaters, and also the big chains are willing to do it if they have a lot of screens, because there's an option. If you have 15 screens, and on the 31st only, I think it's Companion and there's an animated movie coming out that are really the ones dropping in a lot of these theaters. It's like, well, there's an opportunity for us, and it's been 2 weeks since Wolfman came out, because it comes out on Friday.
Sure.
So these are things that you have to kind of navigate, but there's an opportunity,
So it's very fascinating because I'm hearing all these numbers, right? And all these moments where like, cha-ching, I'm like, okay, that's a spend, that's a spend, that's a spend. And it's like on one part of me, I'm like, okay, for sure, I want this project in the theater. And then on another part of me, I'm like, okay, well, $8,000 or $5,000, I'm like, man, that on like social media marketing, which one is more beneficial to the audience to go and see your project, right? It's like you have to weigh the options, because on one end too, if you're given such valuable information, but if you have it on 20 theaters in different states, then that means you have to go market in 20 different states, to be like, hey, now in theater for a limited time or whatever the amount is, go watch Round the Decay. Like, all of these costs are associated to the point where it's like, okay, but if you have it on one, let's say, streaming platform, and you do the marketing that way, it's like, what's going to generate more dollars and more eyes, right?
Yeah, it's a great question. And especially when it comes, social media is such an interesting way, because what we've started to see is it really depends on who's promoting it and things like that. And oftentimes people are liking things, but does it drive those people to go and see the thing, And so, yeah, it's a war. Money is always the war. And this is why they say that, you look at the budget of whatever film that's coming out. Go look at the budget of Nosferatu, and let's just say it costs $50 million. In all likelihood, they're spending about $50 million as well on marketing.
Marketing, yep.
Yeah, and I remember very early in my career doing this, I was talking, or I was reading something, and they said that it costs $5 million for the average person on the street to learn that a movie exists.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so it's like, and it makes sense, because you have to hit them. Back in the day, you had to hit them on TV, and you have to hit them on YouTube, and you have to hit them on social media, until finally one time they might go, oh, that movie looks pretty cool, maybe we'll check it out.
Yeah.
So like, there's a lot that goes into it. You have to weigh those things. And honestly, we have no idea how it's going to work out.
Yeah.
Truly, I think the thing is that the things you can control are like how aggressive you're being about approaching these theaters, about how you're selling yourself, about how you are able to be resilient and lenient and flexible and things like that. And then the other thing that you can really control is making sure that you're making the best movie that you possibly can make and being as brutally honest about that as possible.
Yeah.
And so that when the movie does get into theater, if somebody goes and sees it, they come out of it and go like, that movie was rad. I should tell people about it. And so they start to tell their friends, and this is what happened with Terrifier 1 that led to Terrifier 2, which led to Terrifier 3, which is very much not my type of movie. However, it worked. It really, really worked. And Terrifier 3 cost $2 million. It made $100 million to the box office. And it's because it was able to release slowly. It already had this kind of fan base, but also people were talking about it and saying, like, this movie is rad. It's got cool gore. We love it. And so those are the things that we can control. And then other than that, it's about weighing what will and what won't work. And we're learning very quickly what is not working, what is working.
What do you find that's not working and what's working?
It's, I mean, I don't want to say necessarily it's.
Well, what do you find interesting?
There are people that are always, that how people are willing to purchase tickets, I should say that. So pre-sales of tickets are very, very, very difficult to get. And we thought we could capture more than we did. We actually did okay, but like we didn't capture as many as we were hoping for. And I think we made assumptions that aren't true. And I keep looking at myself. I don't know how you are as a cinema goer, but I go to the movies fairly frequently. I at least try to hit once a month. And I would ideally be doing it once a week. But I'm kind of the audience for something like this, and I've never pre-purchased a ticket, So
I don't think I've pre-purchased a ticket ever either.
Yeah, I think the most pre-purchase I would do is like it has to be a special event, It would have to be like, oh, they're showing blank on 70 millimeter, and it's over at the specialty theater. That's about it. Other than that, it's like a day of. Like you do it right before you go, right? You just go buy the tickets online or you just purchase in person. So those numbers haven't been as strong as we were hoping. And we tried to play all the best angles that we possibly could with it. And we weren't able to find something that exactly works. And eventually you kind of just learn like, that's just not the place to market.
Sure.
And that's not the way to go about it. It is amazing how many people get excited. I'm so surprised about this once you just list where you're playing. So many people early on, because we were doing this ticket voucher system, and oftentimes people were about to buy and they would go like, but I don't know if it's playing near me. And it's like, we'll get there. Don't worry about it. Just purchase the voucher. But then we started dropping some of the locations, and you might have seen with some of our posts, like we're in, over 10 states now, and people are getting amped about it. And then from there,
momentum's building.
Yeah. And then so many people will comment on those and be like, what about Ohio? And then we go like, we're calling up our Ohio people now and telling them that people want to see this. And if you want to see it in your, near you, if you call to the theater and say, I want to see Round of Decay, there's a way higher chance that people are going to go and are going to take the movie on.
Yeah.
This actually happened for us where somebody said like, I wanted to be in Georgia, and we reached out to Georgia, and then the people in Georgia were like, yeah, we'd like to play this. So it's once you get the ball, that like, again, it's the snowball. If you get the snowball going and you start bringing up and start showing that, hey, look, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Florida, Oklahoma, Michigan, these are states that we're currently in. Everybody starts going like, and if they've seen the trailer and like it, they start going like, what about my state? What about my state? I want to see the movie. So we're hoping that we can build that momentum up, and then the word of mouth, and then obviously doing things like this, the podcast, doing as many as we can to talk more about the movie.
Sure.
And then reviews, of course, as well, which are always scary, of course, because there's always the chance that they're not strong. But
yeah, I mean, that's the thing about reviews and people's opinions about a movie. It doesn't matter if you shot the movie with $10 or whatever. They're going to compare it against Hollywood's $50 million budget films and give you no break every time.
It's absolutely true, which is why the story has to win out, and I was very lucky. I got to see we did 3 premieres of the movie. So we did like we first did a Massachusetts, then we did a New Hampshire, and then I went up to Maine for a very small showing. And it was very small, and there was probably about 10 people, but they were very, very nice. It was the first time I actually got to watch the movie and kind of enjoy the movie.
Sure.
Because I wasn't sitting there thinking about how I screwed something up or whatever it may be.
The audience will never know. You'll know.
Yeah, that's very true. And so I was like, man, this movie's actually okay. Like I'm actually pretty proud of this thing. And then afterwards, I went up for a Q&A, and it was awesome. It was like 2 hours long. We were just talking for hours and hours about the movie. And one of the guys said, like, one of the people that stayed were very, very passionate about the movie, and they said they really enjoyed it. And one guy said, like, yeah, they asked the budget, and I talked a little bit about it, and then he said, I thought this was a $20 million movie, which is not true, but like it's very kind of him for him to say. And I was like, oh, good. What he did is he was able to see through and be like, this is a great story, and it looks whatever all the stuff around it looks good enough to satisfy this story. And so you are right. $10, $100 million, they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care at all. All they want is a good story. Feed them that good story. And if you do, and reviewers start to talk about it, and it starts to get decent scores on Letterboxd or IMDb or all these type of things, which aren't the end all be all, but they help. They always help when it comes to it. So we're just trying to put our eggs in all the different baskets that we can, and then we're going to take the data that comes from that and analyze that afterwards and kind of figure out what worked for us, what didn't work for us, what will work for us next time, all those type of things. Because, you know, this is one movie we're hoping to be in lots of theaters with lots of our movies.
And I think that this movie will actually do well. When I think of the cycles, you know, Hollywood, or not, I'm going to use the term Hollywood, but Hollywood always has cycles, right? Mm-hmm. For a while, it'd be rom-coms, then it'd be like action. You know, I think you're hitting it with the creature horror, because I think we've been deprived for a while of creature horrors. And I'm not talking like Sharknado, right? Like that's like you're watching that for the laughs. Like, oh, I can't believe a fucking shark just flew off a boat or, you know, into the mountain. And, but when you have a solid, like, let's say horror creature film like Round the Decay, you're almost ahead of the curve, right? Like I think with like Terrifier, when it came out, at the time, there wasn't the Michael Myers or the Jasons, like, you know, like they were in the 80s and the 90s. So it came out, you got a clown, but now it's a clown killer, so it's a little different. With you having a creature horror, you're able to get two audiences. You're able to get the audience that love creature films, right? Which became popular, I think, in the 80s for a while. And then you have the horror audience that like, I want to see people get killed.
Yeah, no, definitely. We certainly don't try to, cater or tailor to trends, because it's just like, if you're doing that, you're already behind. You're a dinosaur. You know, it's like you can't predict where these things are going to go. So I think that the thing is, make the movie you want to see, make it very, very honest, do the things that you think are cool, except that some of the things you want to do that are cool, you can't do because you don't have the money, and just try to be creative about how you tell that story. And if it's at the right time, as what the audience is kind of looking for, then you're in good shape. And what you just brought up, you know, that inspires me. That makes me think, okay, we have a good shot here, because you're right. There haven't been a lot of creature movies, and a lot of times when we're talking about the creature movies that these were based on, you're right. It was the 80s, it was the 70s, it was early 2000s. We still haven't had this wave of creature films. And what you just said about Art the Clown as well, you're right. It's like he became a new Jason, or he became a new Freddy. And I think I will also use the term Hollywood. They just didn't know that there was a hunger for it. And Damien Leone, you know, the guy who made Terrifier, he just made something he thought was cool, you know, and he was like, I want to see this thing. And then what happened was everybody else also wanted to see that thing, and Hollywood went, what do you mean? We had no idea. We thought you all still wanted to watch superheroes punch people through walls. And so you're right. I think that there's an opportunity for, you know, like you said, monster movies to make a comeback. I mean, Wolfman's coming out this weekend, you know, so hopefully we're part of that, you know.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think you guys absolutely will, right? Whether Wolfman starts to trend and you guys are right afterwards, right? And it's like a double, triple whammy. But I think that, you know, there's a few things that happens in Hollywood when someone's going to invest $20-50 million. They want something that works, so they know they get their money back. So if superhero movies is what's generated billions of dollars, and they're like, hey, let's do another superhero movie. Unfortunately, I think that for that time span of 10 years, however long it was before, you know, Avengers Endgame ended, like that whole span, that run was crazy. But I think after Endgame, it was like, all right, the fatigue is kicked in. And the only thing I think that always outlasts any trend is originality. Now, that's not to say that your film or my film's 100% original, because I believe every story's been told. It's just the perspective and the nuance is a little different.
Yeah, 100%. You know, every story has been told, you're right, but not by you.
Exactly.
You know, and that's the thing, is you're bringing your own personal flavor when it comes to it. And you're right. When Hollywood started making more and more of these superhero movies, it made perfect sense. Like it was something where, like you said, the cash was coming in, but also they're based off of commodities that people already know, which means that they already have attachment to it or knowledge of it, which is, it has a power to it. But I think you nailed it. I've been saying the same thing when it came to Endgame, which it's called Endgame, which is kind of perfect.
Ironic, yeah.
Yeah, I think that audiences went, okay, this is it. We're exhausted by this, and what a way to end it. I know people that still they love that movie and they love that whole wave of Marvel stuff, and so I'm not against it or anything like that, but it does come and go in waves, and the audiences are always looking for something new. I agree that people do want original stories. It might be harder these days to get people in to see it because of the IP wave.
Sure.
And people knowing all these other things, and also just getting those things funded. But this is where indies come in. Indies don't have the luxury, quote luxury, of being able to use IP because it's too expensive. And so they're going in two different directions. One, you're telling stories that are completely original to yourself, or they're now venturing into, public domain material and then, trying to mine that for something. You look at the stuff like Winnie the Pooh, and you look at, we have the, my wife just gave me a fist bump. The Winnie the Pooh movies, and you look at the Peter Pan movie that's coming out and stuff like that. It's people that are playing around in genre with, material that we all are aware of, but has reached the public domain. So these are the only places that we can play. And so I hope that the audiences are going to start coming back and screaming for it. The only way that you can, if you are an independent, if you like independent stories and you like original stories, the only way that you can get more of them, because I hear so many people go like, oh, all we get is superhero movies, all we get the same thing over and over again. Then go watch an indie.
Sure.
Watch an indie, keep spending money on indies, and I promise you that Hollywood will follow and will give people this money. And I think there was this great speech at the Oscars last year by the man who won for, I think it's American Fiction. And he said, like, hey, maybe we should stop doing $100 million movies, and instead we should be making $10 million movies, because those movies can still exist. And I think that there's a chance that those type of things come back. And, the 90s were kind of this hotbed for indie talent, right? Where studios were not afraid to give people like Tarantino and Richard Linklater and all those type of people a little bit of money to make something. And you now see, I'm going to keep bringing up Terrifier, but now you see things like Terrifier and hopefully something like Ours, and you go like, wow, awesome stories that are a lot of fun or have a lot of emotion or anything like that can be made at a really small budget. And when you make things at smaller budgets, the stories can be more personal, and it's not necessarily easier to make your money back, but you have to make less to make it back. So stop putting investing all of this money and time into these quote tentpole movies, especially because they're so big that if they fail, they've just destroyed an entire industry.
Well, that's and that's like, I agree with you 100%. It's one of those things where, like, when I look at what we're able to do as indie filmmakers, right, and I really mean that by like stretching that dollar on screen, right, that I've come to two conclusions. One, if a studio has $100 million, go make $100 million films, and you're going to have 100 chances to have something pop off compared to two $50 million movies, right?
Absolutely.
I think, social media has proven that you don't necessarily need an A-lister. You can have somebody from their bedroom become a star, right? And have millions of followers. But it's a fascinating thing when you think of the trajectory of the lull that Hollywood's been in when DVDs and Blu-rays left, streaming was introduced, the money pool wasn't there anymore for the returns. However, I do think that there's going to be a boost. I think two things are either going to happen. There's going to be a boost because streaming services like Amazon Prime and stuff have added ads back. So now you're getting the double revenue of the monthly subscription and the ads playing. So that should allow for more money to go back into the filmmakers or into the studio's pockets. Even if it's like an old school TV deal where, they would get the part of the ad revenue. I know, like, as an actor, commercials, back in like 2006 paid way more money than they do now. Right now it's like, here's $5,000 buyout. Before, I did like a McDonald's commercial one day, like $40,000. It was just crazy. It's either going to go that route where more money flows back into film, because I do feel like in 2025 with social media, video games, TikTok, Instagram, that film, or movies, I should say, they aren't as respected. Because if we're going to be honest with ourselves, all it is an art form that occupies your time slot for that time. So now compared to the 90s where, you know, if you and I watched the TV show, we could talk about it all week before the next episode, right? So it lived with us. Whereas now it's like, okay, I'm done. Let me go watch this movie about this Nissan Skyline GTR or whatever, right? Okay, all right, now I'm going to go see how to bake a chicken. Oh, I'm going to go play Call of Duty. So now it has to compete with so much, I would say, time eaters, right?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, no, you're like, there are so many things to do. And this is what I feel about all of my time too. You know, I have 24 hours a day and I try to sleep less than the average person because I want to do stuff. And so you only have so much time when it comes to all of these different things. When it comes to watching movie, watching TV, obviously you have to go and you have to work. There's now places like golf and there's bowling and there's all these different things that you could be doing. So you are competing with all of this stuff. And especially in the cinema, if the cinema is starting to be really expensive, which is not what it used to be. It used to be very much made for the common man, which is why it was cheaper. And so it was an easy way to get people in. You're right. We're at war with a whole bunch of these things. And I'm a big video game player too. So I feel the same way. And sometimes I'm sitting there in gridlock in my brain as I'm trying to figure out what to do. Do I watch a movie? Do I watch an episode of a show? Do I write? Do I play this video game? It's true. I agree, which just means like, but that just motivates me more. It's like, I really don't believe that anybody at any point is ever going to give up on stories. I think always people are going to want to watch stories. I have to believe that, or I wouldn't do this, I guess. And so we try to make the best thing that we possibly can. The fact that it's becoming cheaper to make them, easier to make them, better looking, all those type of things helps us get our collective feet in the door. Of course, what it means is that you do also have to wade through a sea of other movies.
Sure.
And you have to wade through all of these other things. It's definitely true. But I think, like I said, I think it just motivates me more, and the cinemas might be in trouble. But I do think that everything kind of turns, like you said, in waves and trends and stuff like that. And I do think that the cinema might come back in the same way that vinyl came back, you know, or that like VHS is coming back now, and where you're willing to spend a little bit more money because of, one, it's a little bit vintage, but also two, because it's a lot of fun.
Well, I also think with cinemas, you know, what's fascinating about that is you said it, right? It used to be for the common man. Now ticket prices are so expensive and everything is so expensive, where I think that like if a movie theater were to go in, accept more titles like indie films and all this stuff and have a constant slate of movies, right? Instead of waiting for the big tentpole, because we all know in 2 weeks it's going to be on Amazon Prime or Netflix. So we're just going to wait, right? You have this influx of new films, indie films, and then you lower your prices from $17 a ticket. Man, make it $6. Right? You take your popcorn and your drinks, man. Instead of charging $8, you're going to charge $2.50. So now you're making everything reasonable and you have a fresh slate of films. Like, I think that could help energize and help sway somebody to be like, you know what? Let me go to the movie theater today instead of like, I'm just going to watch it at my house instead of being lazy. Cause I'm guilty of that too. That I just think it needs a reform.
Yeah, you're probably right. And I think that's why, you know, the unfortunate thing is with almost all industries, it's almost impossible to predict trends. I really don't believe that any person can really figure it out. And if you really, when you predict a trend, it's like you took a risk and you got lucky.
Sure.
But what it seems like a lot of the movie theaters are doing now is kind of understanding that, oh, maybe this is kind of more of an event type of thing. And that's why they're bringing it so that hey, we'll bring you beers to your seat. And hey, we're having the recliners and we have little tables and now you can buy a burger, you know, all those type of things. I think that there's a place for that. And I think that there's a place, like you just said, for like the $5 movies. You know, it is crazy seeing, you know, I think you live out on Eastern Standard Time, right?
Yeah,
where do you live?
I live in Atlanta. Yep.
You live in Atlanta, so you probably know what it's like in terms of how much a ticket costs at a movie theater these days. You know, over where, you know, us, you get closer to Boston, you're getting close to $20 a ticket, you know, $15 out where I am. And then we see, because we're, you know, working with these theaters, you go and see something in the Midwest and they're still $5 or $6 a ticket.
Yeah.
So there is a wide range of what can be done at the theater. I think what you just said is true. Hopefully you can bring in more stuff, and having more options means maybe more people are willing to go. I do think that the streaming thing was a reaction mostly to COVID.
Sure.
And trying to figure out how do we continue to make money during this time. And then what happened is it got so damn easy, like you just said. It's so easy to just watch a movie on streaming. And then these companies kind of pivoted and were like, oh, well, we'll just do a 2 or 3 week long theatrical run, and then after that we'll just dump it onto a streamer, and that's where we'll start making our money. And I wish we hadn't, because now it's changed it so everybody just kind of thinks that, well, I'll just wait 2 weeks and then I'll rent it on Amazon or whatever it is.
As a film lover, like, I'm guilty of that too. Like,
oh, same, absolutely, 1,000%.
I'm guilty of it. So I'm like, and I will say, like, I'll reserve that for what I deem special movies, like Top Gun Maverick. Like, oh, I'm going into theater to watch that, right? Yep. Like, it's certain things where if it's anything other than something like, don't judge me, I love Fast and the Furious and the entire franchise and everything about it. And I haven't missed a Fast and the Furious film in theaters since they first came out.
Sure.
Like, I'll reserve it for that or something like that. But recently I watched Alien Romulus on Hulu, and I was like, oh, this shit's amazing. This is what I'm talking about, right? I'm like, this is what I want to make as a filmmaker, something like this. And then I sat there and I thought to myself, damn, why didn't I see this shit in theaters?
Yeah, you should have seen it in theater. It is a ride in theaters, man. Yeah.
So it's crazy. So, okay, how did you get your? There's still some stuff I want to ask you. How did you get your budget for Round the Decay?
It's mostly from two sources. So we only lightly pitched it to some money people. It was like people that we knew who knew somebody. It was those type of things, and some of them reacted to it. But a lot of these money people want to talk about making movies. They don't want to make movies, and I'm very much not interested in being slow, as you've kind of seen. I just can't stop moving. So it really came from like two sources. So we have basically two executive producers. One is my company, Dreamscape Productions, and really it's my boss and his business partner, which is Sean Ward, who's doing a lot of the legwork right now. He just texted me about some of the marketing we're doing. Him and his company, Dreamscape Productions, which I'm a part of, they put a good chunk of the money into the movie. I would probably say it was probably about 4/5 of the budget.
Sure.
And then I have a private investor, my good friend Jay Voiceness, who put in about another 1/5, maybe 1/4 of the money into the movie. He's in the movie. If you watch the trailer, he's the one that has like the really shocked face. Those were the two main sources when it came to it. I put in, $5 or 10 grand probably over the course of all the different things that I spent on. Another one of my producers did the same thing. He ended up covering all of our insurance and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was those two, which I'm very lucky to have. But I hope nobody takes that right now. If you're an independent filmmaker, you're listening to this, I hope nobody takes that and goes like, oh, that guy just got lucky. It's like, yeah, no, I did. But a huge part of it is for 15 years, I just put myself into positions to get lucky. The only reason I know this person who ended up being the main investor in our film is because I was looking for a free location back 8 years ago, and I messaged him, and he sent me back his headshot and said, if you put me in the movie, you can have any location you want. And so from there, we became friends, and eventually he became my boss, and he's also obsessed with movies. And then we built this relationship. We built this production company. We built this movie. Like, it took years of this process to get to this point. And so I'm very lucky that that's the case. However, I do know that like we can't spend that type of money again necessarily soon, unless Round the Decay is able to make some of its money back. And, I want to kick up, we're a ULB project according to SAG guidelines, right?
I was about to ask you that. Yeah.
It's under $300,000, which we are. And so that's what we're under. I'm writing something now that would be that 300 to 700, or even that 700 to 2 million range. And so my expectation is hopefully that people will see Round the Decay and make our money back. That's got to be a big part of it. But also, I do know that if people see the movie and they go like, wow, these guys can really make a movie, just imagine what they would do. This movie looks like $1 million. What can they do with 700,000? What can they do with 2 million? Which is still, again, such small potatoes compared to what these other people are doing. But we're able to stretch that dollar. We're able to make a penny look like a dollar. So yeah, the money came from those sources. We're hoping that going forward, it won't be those sources anymore. We're really hoping that we're going to be getting a whole bunch of different investors when it comes to it. And Round the Decay hopefully will be kind of like a bargaining piece for that, to show, hey, not only do we have Round the Decay, but we had Everwinter Night, which we made for, $60,000. And the movie we made before that, we made for $7,000, and people start to see what we can do.
I was going to say, out of all of your films, what film and genre has done the best for you financially?
Oh, I mean, it's probably already Round the Decay. We've made, when it came to I have distribution basically for 3 films. Round the Decay being one of them. Short films, we don't, we made no money off of. Short films were basically used as concepts or to, work on our art form or whatever. A bunch of those, you probably see Scarlet K on my IMDb. Scarlet K, I made that movie for $1,000. Like that was just, a bunch of people getting together, donating their time, all of us sleeping in the same room, that type of stuff. It's a fun movie, but like I never wanted it to get distribution. It's really rough around the edges. It's when I kind of learned. I went into it after I had read Lloyd Kaufman's book, and I was like, I can make my own movie. I can write my own damn thing. I was kind of in that range.
Sure.
We ended up getting a distribution deal for our very small movie called Ice Patrol, which is like on Tubi and stuff like that. It's a really slow burn drama. That cost us $2,000 to make. We've probably made $2,000 off of it. It's not huge. We weren't expecting it to. I never even thought about distribution. I just wanted to make the best movie I could. And then Everwinter, we're still seeing some money because it plays on Tubi and Amazon and all those types of things. It really hit. It did okay, really okay. That first month when we hit all the streaming services, and since then money's been trickling in, which is nice. But again, it wasn't a movie. We never really thought about distribution until Everwinter. That's when we started thinking about what are we going to do in order to get this in front of more people. And now Round the Decay, it's already starting to pull in some money.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Outside of the theater, when it comes to Round the Decay, what are your plans, or like what are you looking for from a distribution standpoint with that film?
So when it comes to the sales agent and distributor talks, which hopefully some person's listening right now, we want a decent minimum guarantee. That's the biggest thing. Or we're willing to potentially go into the market ourselves and do it, just because we have some resources in order to. We want a minimum guarantee because we've heard too much about the predatory stuff when it comes to what is, what people taking advantage of other people and things like that. We don't want that to be the case. So we're hoping somebody's going to come with a minimum guarantee it doesn't need to be the budget, but somewhere relatively close, and get us that plus a percentage. And we really want a distributor or sales agent that can prove that they can market something.
Sure.
Because so many of these sales agents and distributors now, the name of the game is numbers. They just want to get as many movies as they possibly can and get small percentages of the pies of each of them and not have to do a whole lot for it.
And that's what I've noticed about a lot of contracts from distributors is,
Yep.
You'll have your split, but what people don't realize is that when you're dealing with the smaller distributors, you're responsible for the marketing as a filmmaker.
Entire marketing. Yep.
So if you're responsible, and I always tell filmmakers this, I say, okay, you want to follow a couple of things. Try to get an MG, right, which is a minimum guarantee.
Yep.
And then cap your marketing cap, right? Don't let it be 50, 20,000. Cap it at like $5,000 or whatever, because the last thing you want them to do is put a post out or put it on their social media and say that costs $5,000. Right.
Oh, certainly. We make sure that that's not even an option, because you get the people that start going like, oh, I'd like to recut the trailer. And it's like, yeah, you want to recut the trailer because you want to charge us for it.
Sure. Right. Yeah. And the third thing is like, you never know, like, I guess my thing is always this. If you're going to get it on Amazon Prime and Tubi and all that stuff, then I'll just go through Film Hub and do it myself. So
that's what we do with Everwinter.
Yeah. As a distributor, like, can you get it on the premium platforms? Like, can we talk about, maybe a Hulu or maybe a Netflix or maybe a Max? Okay, let's say that's out of the table because of whatever the reasoning is. Yep. Okay, well, can you get me as an original on Tubi, or can you do something that I cannot do? Because if I'm responsible for the marketing and I can get it on the same streaming platforms, then you're irrelevant to the process of this film getting out to an audience. Now, on the flip side, it's like, okay, like you said, if you're going to market the film and actually really market it, right? You're a Universal, you're a Lionsgate, you're an A24. Oh yeah, let's go. Let's rock, baby.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, because that's the biggest thing is how much can you do to market the film? How do you keep it on the spinny little wheel that's on all of those platforms?
Sure.
Can you get us into, like you just said, a Max or something like that? Because if not, why am I making the deal? And not only that, but like Film Hub's going to take a smaller percentage.
Sure.
So like, when you are in a sales agent, it's taking a percentage of a percentage. There's that middleman. I'm not saying that all sales agents or all distributors are scummy or anything like that, but there's just been so many practices that have been so unethical. And then you hear horror stories about how sometimes some of these distributors will say that they were marketing your movie at a festival, and that's why they charged you for the ticket to go over to Cannes, when in reality they were going there to purchase a different movie, you know. And it's
Sure.
like, again, I'm not saying that all these places are like that, but now we're in a place where we can at least look at some of these things and go like, what can you offer to us? You know, we're offering you the film, and hopefully it's a marketable piece of something, so that
Sure.
there's a reason that you like this and believe it can sell. But like, they need to come to the table and say, you know, this is what we offer. We can get you into XYZ, or we can make sure that we're marketing you hard in all of these different areas, and hopefully not charging you astronomical rates for stuff like that. So it's tough, and especially in the indie world, and especially when there are so many. It's just like how, you know, on Film Freeway now, if you're looking for film festivals, like 70% of them are kind of scammy. They're online festivals that are just trying to make bucks off of you, and it does feel like that's the case when it comes to distributors. The good news is, when you make something that looks like it has decent quality, and now we're starting to trend on IMDb a bit, and we have a couple names that have some value according to whatever chart they're going off of, we're getting mostly reputable sales agents and distributors who are honest about it. You know, we had a sales agent who said, like, I could get you a 5-figure deal for this, and then for a minimum guarantee, and then we can get a percentage from there. And we're like, that we're not looking for. We're looking for, you know, we need a 6-figure deal. And he goes, that's completely fair, and it makes sense, and I'd love to talk to you on the next movie. You know, so we're trying to wade through that and figure out exactly what it is. But it is like you said, we want a minimum guarantee. We want to know that they're going to be pushing, either getting us onto bigger platforms, or they're pushing us really, really hard on the platforms that we already know that we can get into. And so that we can start to see some of that money back. And, you know, obviously I want the money back. The main reason I want the money back is so I can make more, though. That's it. And also because it's my job. This is what I do professionally, and I'm very lucky that I get a salary to do this. But like,
that's the dream right there.
Oh yeah, no, it's about to fall out from underneath me. I'm very aware. However, like, I'm gonna, you know,
ride it while you can. Yeah,
exactly. And so I need for the movie to make money back for that, so that we can continue. But I like that my business partner Sean really thinks, he's like, I want to make money so we can make more movies. It's not about getting rich and sitting on yachts or anything like that. And also, you're delusional if you think you're going to pull that off. I want to do that so that we can make more. But really, the thing I've always wanted the most by far, and I'm sure you feel the same way as the filmmakers, I just want people to watch the damn thing.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and so, like, I will, and I think Sean would even say this too. He would say if he knew that we had 1 million views, he would take that over $10,000, you know, something like that. Like, that knowledge right there, and being like, oh my God, we're getting through to people. And then you start to look at the systems of what's paying you and what's not paying you, because not only these distributors, but sales agents too, but also the fractions of pennies that you're getting for a lot of these deals is kind of bullshit, right? It kind of is. Like, well, and I wish that it could be investigated more. But
well, I also have a theory on that, you know, you brought it up earlier. You were like, okay, they want to take all of these movies and get little percentages. But there's two things where I'm like, okay, how do you know transparently that the numbers that you're receiving are really the real numbers? Because secondly, why would all these distributors want your films of all scales, right? Of dollar films, $100,000 films, all films. Why do they want it so bad if they don't make any money? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Of course.
Right? So like, two things don't add up. Like, clearly they know, based on, you know, the history that they have with films, that film right there, okay, that can make 10, that can make 20,000, that can make 100,000. Okay, boom, I already have these territories, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to go pitch this group of films. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, because if not, how is it that so many filmmakers are not making anything?
Yeah, no, that's probably true. But I think what a lot of the distributors now are doing, and the sales agents are doing, is just they're taking something and go, oh, I could probably make a couple grand off of this. And then once you are able to do, and if you're just a single sales agent, I'll give you an example. I don't want to speak completely ill of him, and I won't tell you his name, but he came to us after, he didn't even watch Everwinter Night. We sent him the poster for Everwinter Night. You can look it up. The poster's sweet. I don't care what anybody says. It's really cool.
Sure.
And it's one of the selling points of the movie. He saw the poster, and he went like, oh, can you put some bigger boobs on here? And we went like, no, there's nothing in that in the movie. He's like, oh, I can't sell this. And so what he wants to do is he wants to get a movie that, you know, caters to that audience, which is fine.
Sure.
I'll watch those movies all day too. But he wants something that caters to that audience. And in the end, he probably ends up making $5,000-$10,000 off of that one movie. The filmmaker makes more than that, probably even he probably makes $1,000 off it, and the filmmaker ends up making $10,000 over the course of time. But that sales agent then goes and does that. He does it to my movie, but he'll do it to your movie and the next movie and the next movie and the next movie. Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, no, of course he's making, a couple $100 from that movie a month, a couple $100 from that, a couple $100 from that. Sometimes it's only 10, 100, $20, $50. But if you're doing it for 100 titles, all of a sudden you're making a decent living. You don't have to promote it and market it. All you can be working on is acquiring films.
Yeah.
And so you can just be like, yes, I'll take your movie. I can get it onto Tubi. I have these relationships, and sometimes they probably do. I'm sure that they also kind of have it just like Film Hub has it, where it's just like, hey guys, I have a new movie, and they go, cool. If it passes QC, we're good.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what it feels like where we're at, and it's trying to figure out as independent filmmakers. You and I and everybody else has to figure out who's reputable. Do they actually care about our film? Do they care enough to market it? Do they like the movie, or do they just think it could sell? There's a whole lot of these different things, and it's something that we're going to have to go through coming up really soon as we have to make that decision whether or not we're going to go with a sales agent or a distributor or both, and figure out where it's going to be and if it's worth it. Because like you said, we could always pop it on Film Hub. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to make a lot of money because we don't have a lot of sway on Film Hub, but it's always an option, especially if people are just going to basically throw it up and do the same thing themselves and then just take a cut of it.
Well, I think that with the film and with the momentum that you guys have and with the theater run that you guys are pushing, I think that you guys will actually get a good deal or a better than average deal just because of the momentum. And one thing that filmmakers never talk about is momentum. It's one of those things where, so I wrote a horror script. Right. And I used to consume a lot of horror. As I became an adult, I don't really watch horror that much. I watched Smile like last year, and that shit freaked me out. I was like, this is scary as fuck. I was like,
Smile's great.
I was like, that shit freaked me out. At certain parts, I had to turn the volume down. I was like, hold on, I'm by myself. So I wrote a horror movie, and I was like, man, it's a good story. I like it. But I'm like, this just isn't, it's not me. It's not who I am as a filmmaker today. So I went back and I worked on this other project, but I say that to say this, that when you have the momentum, you should use it now. And the reason why I say that is with the current film, I should have waited to the spring where the trees are beautiful and green and all that stuff. But I had the momentum of everybody now. So I was like, forget it. We're going to shoot this right now. And with the momentum of your guys' film, the movie theaters, people calling, where's it at? Facebook groups, all this stuff. Eventually, someone else on the other side is going to be like, hey, what's up with Round the Decay? We need to talk to these people and see if we can get a hold of this film, because you only need so many people to talk about it before it starts becoming a real tangible thing in the world of the internet.
Absolutely. You're so right when it comes to that. And hopefully that's going to be the case. And I think, we took a lot of what we decided to do with Round the Decay off of our friends over at Mainframe, who's Eric Bloomquist. He made the movie Founders Day, which came out last year, basically at the same time. And they ended up having a theatrical run. I think it was 970 theaters for Founders Day. And that was, exactly. And so we looked at what they were doing and also what we heard about them afterwards, which was they had a good theatrical run, 970 theaters. They did fairly well across the board. Obviously, they had to pay out their butt for a whole bunch of different things. But ultimately, I think they would call the movie a success. But one of the biggest successes is that people were bringing their names up in conversations at studios and things like that, being like, Founders Day did this. They were able to get into theaters and people were interested in it and were going after it and seeing it in the theaters and stuff like that from a movie that was a smaller budget. So yeah, you're right. And we just decided to kind of ride that momentum wave as well. It's not only are we hopefully getting the ball rolling and people are starting to get interested in talking about it and seeing the trailer and going, it's a cool trailer, or that's a cool poster, stuff like that. We're also kind of jumping onto the snowball that is the indie film wave. We're hoping, so we want to be 1% of the change. I keep saying that, we want to be we want to take down 1% of the gate, knock that part down so that somebody else can climb up and potentially knock down the next part so that we can join them. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
you're right. You're right about the momentum. And when it comes, this is probably why I also don't stop, is because I don't want to lose the momentum. There was a year's window where I think it was probably 4 or 5 years where I didn't make something probably back in my mid-20s. And it's so hard to get going again when you've stopped. And that's when I made Scarlet K. It had been years, and I was like, I just need to get back in making something. And since then, it's been a movie a year, every year, just making another movie.
Which is impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It's certainly not easy. And back then I was working, I was working a minimum wage job for a while, and then I was able to make a little bit more money because I moved up, and I would just spend all of my money on making a movie, and just keep that momentum going, right? And I like to think that we can make something cheaper than Round the Decay, and we'd still be fine as long as we're learning something. But I don't want the momentum to stop. And and that's why, I spend most of my days these days either taking care of Round the Decay, whether it be merchandise, whether it be notes for we don't have the theatrical version ready, so still doing notes for that, and then calling people. But at the end of the day, it's 11 o'clock or whatever. I go, all right, I got to do 30 minutes of writing. I still have to punch the clock here when it comes to preparing for the next thing.
Sure.
And so my goal is that once we're done our theatrical run, which will hopefully go through February, I'll have another script that's at least readable to my producers. And then we can start having that conversation. How much money is this thing going to cost? Where's the money going to come from? Where can we get the ball started? Because if you start getting the momentum going on something, if I just start going like, hey, I'm just going to put a date on it. We're shooting it in December of 2026. Let's just say it was that. All of a sudden, now it's become real.
Yeah.
I have it on a calendar. We all have it on a calendar. Okay, now what do we do to get to that point? Again, it just keeps that momentum going.
Yeah.
And you need to get the snowball going down the hill. And it will just keep picking up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Do you ever feel, and I only ask this question because I know you're super aggressive on your shooting and you love to continue shooting, but do you ever feel this way? Because I do, where you teeter, right? You teeter between retirement and like keep going. And I only say that because like every film project, as I get towards the end, I'm like, all right, this is going to be the last one. I'm going to retire. I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. I did it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, I'm in post, and then like the movie's done. Then I'm sitting there and I'm like, I think we could do one more. I think we could do one more.
Mine is very similar to that. On set, every single time, at least halfway through, I'll go like, I could just leave right now, and I don't need to speak to these people ever again. And I can be okay with that. I'll just go live in the woods, and I'll pretend like I never started this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's stressful. They're 12-hour days, but they're not. They're 12-hour days for cast and crew. They're 16 or 18-hour days for us.
Sure.
As we don't typically operate with a second AD, which we should. But when we don't, it makes it so that we have to do the call sheets, and just ends up being more and more time. Every time I think this is the end of it. I should never make another one again. I think every movie I've made the claim, probably in the third week.
This is normal, right? This is normal for us.
Oh yeah, certainly. I always tell the people like I've lost my way.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing here anymore. And then mine comes a lot sooner though than it sounds like with yours. The moment the movie's over, I think I spend one day of rest, and then the next day the depression starts for a good 2 weeks where I'm like, I'm not on set. What am I doing? I have to get something going so that I can get back out there and do it again. Yeah. So I think you're crazy to continue. Everybody is crazy to continue doing them.
Sure.
And any opportunity you can to leave, if at any point you think like, you know what, for real, if you really have this soul searching moment where you say, I should quit and I'm pretty sure of this, then do it.
Yeah.
Get out. Because it is like the chances of you making money off of it are highly unlikely. We need to face those facts. Most of the time, I mean, I don't know how you feel about all of your movies. I feel proud that I did them afterwards, but I always think, there's this moment in Breaking Bad where Jesse was asked, he tells the story of how he was asked about, he made this birdhouse, and his teacher asks him, is that all you got? And he takes that very seriously and is like, no. Oh, and then he built another one. He built another one. He built another one. And that's how I feel after every movie. I think like, is that all you got? And it's like, no, I am so, like, I have a level of arrogance to me where I go like, no, I can do something bigger. I can do something better. I just learned so much what to not do and to do from that last shoot.
Yeah.
Like, how do I apply that going forward? And then after that next movie, I'll do the same thing again, being like, I'm glad
it's a
in that.
crazy cycle. I'm right there with you, where it's like, as a filmmaker, right? Like the movie's done, and then I sit there and I try to play video games and just not even think about film, right? And then after a couple weeks, I'm like, all right, I'm starting to work on the next project, and it's one of those things where internally we're like, we can do it bigger and better. With this, with the same resources, we can make it better. Why? Because our experience points has gotten better, right? We've gotten better. We know what we like more. We know what we dislike more.
Mm-hmm.
The only caveat, like for me, sometimes where I'm like, I want to get out of this space of having to wear 30 hats to where now the resources are there where I can wear 2 hats.
Oh, like that's literally the conversation we had last time. Is so I have like a producing team of another 3, and they're the guys who get the script first. They're not big like movie guys, but what they're really good at doing is just like telling me what is and isn't working for them, very simply. And we do the whole process together. And afterwards we debrief and we say like, what did we fail at miserably here, and what did we do really well? And so, and the things that we end up learning sometimes are like the things that we do well cause the things that we don't do well. It'll be like, well, we're really, really good at creatively improvising when we have to. And so we put ourselves in too many boxes to creatively, improvise, which is not good because it makes us wear more hats. We always have that same conversation though, which is like, can we just take off 2 hats next movie? Yeah. So like I'm wearing, first movie you're wearing 30 and then you cut it down to 15. And now I'm getting to a place where I'm probably only wearing 7.
Yeah.
And I would love to get to a place where I'm pretty aware that it won't be ever just 1.
Yeah.
I'd love to get down to 3 and kind of do that. And it has nothing to do with trust. Like I've learned over this course how collaborative it is and how trusting a particular department to take care of their thing. They're always better at their job than I am. Yeah. And so like trusting them is easy. It's whether it's figuring out if you could afford it. And that's so often what happens. We go, oh crap, we don't have enough money to have somebody, with Round the Decay, we didn't have somebody to run props. Sure. And so we kind of had somebody had to wear a hat that was also our set deck, and that ended up hurting us. And, we do the same thing with our AD, our second AD. We're like, well, we can manage with 1 AD. And then you go like, because we just want to save that money and we want to put it towards the monster. We want to put it towards a location or whatever it is. And so we end up having to wear more of those hats. We think that we've got to a place though where we start to understand based off of the movie, oh, maybe we don't even need somebody to wear that hat because of this particular movie, and we're wasting resources there. And instead we can give that to somebody else or do something else for it. So I think, like you just said, your perspective changes, and also you just become aware of who you are. Also, we're evolving, like Absolutely. The things I'm interested in now aren't the things I was interested in 10 years ago. And so I like to think every year is the best year of my life. That like this next year is going to be the best year of my life, and last year was the best year of my life. And so I keep thinking that, and which means I'm probably just more confident in what I'm looking for, both movie wise and what production wise, what we're going to be doing. So hopefully it keeps going like that. And then I'm not a fool in thinking that I'm ever going to think I'm going to make something perfect or even great. I think I just can't stop making them, and I want every movie, somebody has come up to me and has said one thing that has made the movie worth it. Yeah. Which is all that you need. I've had people say, you inspired me to get back into movies. And like that one comment, it's like, well, I did it. That's all the movie existed for. Yeah. So that one person could get back into the job, And I remember when my dad said something positive about my first movie, right there, I was like, well, I'm good, And then my playwriting teacher came and saw one of my movies in a theater or in a cinematic experience. And he went like, he's like, that was so incredibly impressive. And like that there, I got goosebumps thinking about it. So that's really what I'm chasing, is trying to make, hopefully people respond to it. And then from there, I'm just constantly going, how do I evolve? How do we evolve as filmmakers and as a team?
Well, it's interesting, that you say that, because as a fellow filmmaker, I tell other guys, I'm like, listen, it doesn't matter what the idea is, just go make it. And it's so important to go make it, because for myself, like I put out a film earlier in 2024 called Pizza Boy Rick. To me, it was a throwaway film, right? I don't give a shit about it to this day. I'm like, I don't really care. Like it was just like, it was a quick idea. Let's just shoot it. We made it. We put it out there. Sure. And then come to find out, that Film Threat nominated amongst all the nominated films is for best action thriller or whatever, right? So it's part of the award show. And I only say that to say this, that to this day, it's a throwaway film. Like when I watch it, I'm like, okay, I guess it's cool for what it is, but sure. I don't have the like, oh, this is the one. Like if I were to be like, hey, Adam, you need to watch Pizza Boy Rick, it wouldn't be Pizza Boy Rick. It would be like a different film. But that just goes to show that even if you have a quick idea, that idea could spawn something else in someone else.
Absolutely. It's huge. Yeah, it's the only thing you're chasing. I'm looking at Pizza Boy Rick, by the way.
No,
it looks sweet, man.
No, like I said, it's even to this day. Like when I asked one of my best friends, I was like, "Look, man, be honest with me. Like, is this like should this even be nominated? Like, because I don't view it that way. Sure. Whereas like something like Always Smile, I haven't released it yet because we're trying to go through the festival circuit. I'm like, okay, if that got nominated, I would be like, okay, that makes sense. Right. Mm-hmm. But Pizza Boy Rick, heck nah. I'm like, that was a throwaway. But so out of all your films throughout your since you started in 2007, the experience and everything, what are some of the greatest lessons that you can bestow? Because I know we've been talking now for like 75 minutes, but what are some of the greatest lessons that you can bestow on other creatives that you've learned?
That's great. Okay. I love doing this. You know, like I don't spend a lot of time on Reddit, but every now and then I go on Reddit, and it's really just to like hopefully help filmmakers. That's it. And so I go on there and I'll just like type some of these lessons that I've kind of learned on my thing. And most of the time they're very personal. You know, I'm not living a Hollywood lifestyle here or anything like that, but I've gotten to this place, which is pretty sweet. And so like I want to at least bring up the things that I can. I mean, the first thing is, I think I mentioned it before, which is just keep putting yourself into positions to get lucky, which means that like you just have to constantly try things and you have to constantly meet people. And if you ever think, oh, you know what, I probably shouldn't go to that networking event, just go to the networking event. Just go to it because there's somebody there that's going to teach you something or is going to be part of your crew.
You're talking to me right now.
Yeah, like because it's so huge. It really is. I mean, one of our grips from this past movie, who also did our on-set photography, the reason that he did, because he showed up to a premiere of one of our movies and was like, this looks cool. I'll check it out and I'll at least have a conversation with them. And like that went so far with me that I was like, you get to be in part of our movies for the rest of your life. His name is John Westcott, and we will put him in our movies in some fashion forever. Yeah. Because he just did that. Just constantly put yourself into positions and to get lucky. I think that's the big thing. I think I mentioned it before as well. Just quit if you have any real true second guesses. Don't bother. It's not worth it. It really isn't. Yeah. That sounds really depressing, but like truly don't. If you're just doing it for fun or whatever, that's totally cool too. Do it on the weekends with your friends. Do that. That's cool. I completely agree. And also, I always think that like if this doesn't work out, I can always go back to that. I can always go back to making movies on the weekends with my friends. So I say do that. Quit if you can.
Sure.
Don't.
It eats at you though, man. Like this. It eats at your soul.
if it eats at your soul, then you come back. That's the only, like, people will be like, should I quit? The answer is like, yeah, try it. And if you have to come back, then it's meant to be. And if not, you're probably a sane human being. And I wish you the best of luck. And you're probably going to live a much happier life. Yeah. So those are definitely some of the lessons. The big one, I learned this from Jim Cummings, the filmmaker, and he said, just don't assume just because you care about something that somebody else will. So you have to make them give a shit about your story. Don't think that just because you like that character that everybody else is going to like that character. I tend to think, especially with indies, don't fuck around with, these are going to be like more technical bolts things. Don't fuck around with your title sequences. Get into the story as quickly as you possibly can.
I don't even do credits no more. The movie just starts.
Yeah, Round the Decay only has the title at the beginning and then the credits at the end. Yeah. Don't screw around with that, because like I hate when a writer-director who did a lot of stuff puts their name 1,000 times in the credits. You can do that at the end. Don't do it at the beginning. Nobody cares about who you are. Yeah. They really, truly don't care who you are. So you're wasting time, which is, I still believe in first acts. I know a lot of movies their first acts are getting shorter and shorter. But I do believe, like, please, one of your 3 best scenes should be your first scene.
Yeah.
Try to get people into the story as quickly as you possibly can, in terms of like more nuts and bolts stuff. Whatever scene you're writing right now, you've already come in too early and you have left too late. So like once you write that scene, it's going to be in half of what it should be, like what it currently
You know,
is.
it's funny you say that. I've already changed the first scene of the movie than that of compared to what I have written because I'm like production value wise, the first scene needs to be bigger.
Yeah, it's really true. You know, like if you just take the less, I'm not a big Nolan guy, but like go watch The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight opens as perfectly as you can open a movie with that bank heist. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and that's a movie that you already were going to see, but every person goes like, what the hell, man? They are so in.
Yeah.
We open Round the Decay not with as big of an action sequence, but we open it with what we consider one of the three best scenes in the movie. So, I mean, it might be the best scene in the movie. So, that is huge. Get people invested as quickly as you possibly can. Cut every single little thing. Stop thinking that you're clever. You're not. Stop thinking your ideas are like super original and great. It's not.
It's not.
Yeah, nothing you've ever come up with is that special, and so accept that. And so once lean everything out, every single place that you can. If you think that it's good because there's a funny joke, but it does not progress anything, cut the fucking joke and put it in the deleted scenes. Like, just accept that that's the case. Respect an audience's time. You know,
I tell filmmakers, I'm like, listen, you're better off having a 70-minute super tight, funny, fast movie than have a 95-minute slow movie.
Yep. Yeah, it's so true. You know, and I mean, unfortunately, I'm somebody that writes hour. You know, Round the Decay is an hour 45.
Yeah.
But the original cut of it was 205. You know, so it's like we cut out 20 minutes, and oftentimes when I wrote the scenes, they felt like they were relevant. And then we had a conversation. I said, hey, it kind of sounds like that one character kind of said the same thing in a different scene.
Yeah.
Let's just get rid of these two scenes that are attached to it. And sometimes you lose awesome moments.
Yeah.
But that's all they would be, is awesome moments. It doesn't, and then also the story will suffer for that. So I think that those are certainly some of the big lessons. Money is overrated big time when it comes to making your films. Yes, you need some of it, and you should pay as many people as you possibly can. But creativity can breed a lot. If you don't have a lot of money and you only have your parents' basement, well, guess what? You're shooting a movie with two actors in your parents' basement. How do you make that interesting? How do you make it a 70-minute movie that keeps going and keeps unraveling and makes the audience want more while they're watching it? And when it's over, they go like, man, I wish that was 10 minutes longer. You can do that, but you just have to take stock of your resources, and you can make something sweet. I think, so many of the movies that I've watched over the years, I keep going back to a lot of things that are big budgets, but there's a movie on Netflix called Circle.
Yeah.
And it's just like 50 actors in a room, and I'm sure they shot it over 5 days, and the movie rules. I come back to it every 2 years. Like, it just works. And so just get your script as tight as possible, which is like, you don't necessarily have to have thick skin. You just can't have thin skin. When somebody says something doesn't work in your script, you're allowed to feel hurt. I think we've kind of talked that, like, we've made it seem like you're just supposed to be impervious to it. You're supposed to bounce off. No, it can hurt.
Every film is like your child.
Yeah, it can hurt, but I think, if a lot of people are saying something's not working, it's probably not working. If someone just says like, oh, I don't like that character, it's like, well, that's a personal thing. But if every person goes like, that character doesn't work, then you have to start investigating why that character doesn't work. And most of your problems, if you're writing a screenplay, almost all of them are in the first act. You have failed in the first act if something's not working going forward. So I think that those are the big things. And then also my big thing is, I think it's just the simplest one, especially if you're getting started. Just fucking shoot it. Yeah. I don't care what it is. Like if you would, like, I want to be a director, but I need all this money to shoot my sci-fi thing. Shut up. Go make something else. Grab a couple friends. The rule is that you have to suck at this for at least 7 years. Sorry, you do. It really sucks. Do it in college, do it in high school, whatever you want to get out of the way. You have to suck at least for 7 years. So understand that that first movie that you're writing is not Clerks. You're not going to be famous. Stop thinking that. Just go and make a cool story. And then what you're going to learn in making that movie is so much more valuable than you'll understand.
100%.
And you don't get it right now. You don't. You really think that script is good, and I promise you it's not. And so just tell the story as quickly as you can. Try to get some true criticism about what is and isn't working. Also feel it out yourself and be honest and reflective and all those type of things. It still happens with my movies where I'll be like, man, I really wish we didn't have that scene in this movie. I still think it's a good movie, but it bogged it down. It slowed it down 5 minutes, but it made it feel like it slowed down a half hour. It's those type of things.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, And then the biggest thing, I keep saying the biggest thing, of course, get a team around you that you really trust.
Yeah.
I love my DP. I will work with him as long as he's available. I love my editor. I will work with him as long as he's available. My producers. I keep bringing back actors that I use all the time. The lead of Round the Decay is this girl named Victoria Mirror. She's been in all of my movies basically for the past 8 years. I will continue to cast her forever because I trust her and she's good.
Isn't that the greatest feeling, that you're able to work and collaborate with the same talent and elevate them as you're elevating yourself? That's such a wonderful feeling, like the Adam Sandler effect.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And, you feel blessed when you actually think about it, when you think like, if you can be humble, which it is partially tough because there is a certain amount of ego to making films. There has to be. You have to believe that like this story is worth telling. However, get humbled immediately when somebody is willing to do your script and do it again and again and again. And that means that they believe in you and they believe in what they're putting out there, which means that they think the thing that you're saying is truthful.
Absolutely.
And so, and it's the same thing with every one of your crew members. And if you like them, like I said, keep bringing them back. We call our group the Merry Band, which they kind of have like we have the core of them. And, every year we bring in new people and some people leave, but then they can come back. And we try to treat all of our sets like summer camp. We just want to have like a really good vibe on set. We want it to be fun. Nobody's allowed to be abusive. If you're ever remotely abusive or do something that could hurt the production, you won't be on the next movie and probably never will be in any of our movies again in any way, because we want it to be fun and we want to be having fun. And I laugh a lot on set. I'm pretty laid back for the most part. I mean, obviously I'm stressed, but creating that environment, because when you create, I think, a loose environment, you make it the most fertile ground for play, Absolutely. So that's a lot of tips, but I think that
wonderful tips.
Yeah, I think that, and you're probably the same way. I'm looking over it looks like you're probably pretty close to my age based off of how many films you've made, I think. And so you've done this for a while, and we've been doing this for a while, even if it's at an indie level. We have a lot to say and I think also be able to take in information. That's what I like about some of these people on Reddit. They're like, hey, I have questions about this thing, and I just tell my little story, and they go like, thank you for that. It's going to help, because I wish I had listened more when I was younger. I think listening is such a key thing, and don't think that the thing you've created is gold. It's not. Be willing to listen to others.
Well, that's the whole reason why I even started this podcast in general, because every time I'm in movie mode, I listen to filmmaker podcasts. That's all I consume, right? Just to hear them talk about their experiences and stuff like that. And then I wanted to contribute to that space for other filmmakers, right? Especially like when you think about it, imagine if you started your first movie in 2007. Where would you be at in 2025? Right?
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
But with people like you and myself and us sharing our experience, okay, so now you're getting a collective of 50 years of experience in this one podcast episode that now you can go take it at 18, 17, get your friends together and go make your movie, because we didn't do anything special. We just did it. And then we just rinsed and repeat and then just got better as we kept doing it.
Absolutely. And what I loved what you just said is like adding to that indie thing, bringing, you creating this podcast was to add to the whole team, everybody that's making these things. I saw somebody talk about how like we're not you and me and all the other filmmakers, we're not all on our own individual pirate ship battling each other. Our movies are not at war with each other. We're all on the same fucking boat.
Yeah.
Like we are on the boat and we're all trying to make the boat the best ride that's possible. Also, there are storms happening all over. Each one of us needs to be doing these little things to help stop the storm. And sometimes that's by sharing our experiences, what went wrong for us, what went right for us. And people can then pick and choose and how to fix their side of the boat when it comes to it. So I think we're all on the same team. And I think that's the biggest thing. And knock down the gates if we can. Like gatekeepers, everybody's terrified that somebody's going to steal something from them, and that like
we're not competing.
This is art. This is not sports. Every single piece of art only makes the rest of the communal pot of art better.
Absolutely. Well, Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure, brother. Much success. I will make sure that I watch Round the Decay. And if I can, if I'm not filming, I will try to make it to the Atlanta theater just to show some support, my brother. Where can people get more information about you? Where can they contact you? Where can they see your films? Give it all out.
Okay, so I'm on Instagram as at director Adam Newman. Also, our film production company is on there, Dreamscape Productions LLC. We also have the Round the Decay one too, which is round_the_decay. I'm on Facebook as Adam Newman. Good luck finding me. I have the most common name in history, but I'm there. If you're in any horror group or any independent film group, you've probably seen a post of mine because I post pretty frequently. Dreamscapeproductions.com is our website. That's where you can start seeing some of the theaters that we have booked. We also have a link tree that's Round the Decay, the link tree that we are starting. Some places are already selling tickets to our movie. You can go purchase tickets right there. It's getting added to every day. There's more theaters than that are there. It's just that they've started selling early, which we love. You can see our movies on Prime, Tubi, and another 15 that I can't think of. Apple as well, Apple TV, but also there's Woku and there's Reveal and there's all these different ones. We're on a whole bunch of those, but check out Everwinter Night. Check out Ice Patrol, which is playing. Carolina Shag and Nomad are both on YouTube for free. Just go and watch those. They're shorts. By shorts, I mean they're under 30 minutes. I write long shorts too. And then see Round the Decay in theaters January 30th. It's the official first day, but 31st is that Friday. Take a whole bunch of friends to go see it. It's really a good popcorn movie. It's a lot of fun to watch together. It's got heart, but it's also got cool kills. It's got a sweet monster, which we show a lot of. Don't think that we're not showing little glimpses here. We show the monster a lot. And it's got, like I said, it's got some heart and it's got some laughs too. And so go check that movie out in the theater, see where it's playing near you. And if you want to see it too, call your damn theater and let them know because we're probably in contact with them and they're trying to get in. So, I think that's all the different places. And thank you for having me and letting me ramble for an hour and a half.
Hey, absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm Jason Park with the Hypatude podcast. Until next time,